Hey everybody! Wow, and it's more than I expected. It's 10:08. I'm later starting than I want to, but I'm gonna get right to the chase. The total construction and project cost for the Oakland Raiders Las Vegas Stadium is at $3 billion. It is $3 billion. Any information you would say, why did I decide to post this now? I'll be candid with you because when I decided to check and see, who was writing what, I noticed that there is this little group that decides they're going to trumpet and uh, what the review journal puts out, even if it's wrong, and most of the time it is. So I deliberately looked into what they prepared, and I saw right off the bat that the construction cost was wrong. It said it was at 1.9 billion. First of all, here's why that's completely incorrect. First of all, that information was put out well over a month ago. Okay, well over a month ago, and not only that, it was introduced in the form of an 11-page PDF that was issued during the February. Remember the February Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting? And then it was discussed the plan to add more luxury suites to land a Super Bowl at 40 million. So that was February. This is not only later in the year, this is, get this, this is this is July. I mean, think about it. This is July 24th. Okay? That information was put out, July 23rd, that the Review Journal had reported on this information that was already, if anybody bothered to look, on the Las Vegas Stadium website. Not only that, it was already reported out by a handful of media and discussed on this channel way back in February. So why rehash old news? That really is wrong. And I say that because the information that you read conveniently leaves out the discussion of the mechanics lien and change orders that found its way into the same February, actually March meeting notes. All right. So once again, this is playing fast and loose with the truth, and someone's got to come in and clean it up. And that someone is me, because nobody else is trying to do it. Now, those of you who are regular viewers to this channel for some time, remember that I have maintained a spreadsheet that chronicles the costs and the revenues and expenses of the entire project, okay? I'm going to show you that in its latest iteration in a moment. Let me get to it right here. And also let me first, before I do that, go down here and make sure that I have opened up the chat and pop out to see if anyone has a comment to make. I don't see anything right now, so I will simply write the words in big letters, hello, like that. And also thank those who watched my coverage of Comic-Con in San Diego. A lot of fun. Zennie62 Media, me, for the most part, has made over 1,000, specifically 1,001 San Diego Comic-Con related videos. Okay, so anyway, that is more than any other media outlet. Welcome to Zennie62. Now, let me get to the matter at hand here, and that is showing you the latest version of the spreadsheet that I have talked to you about to open this program, okay? And here that is. Just made a little notation there, and boom. All right, here it is, okay? Right here. All right, cool. Here it is. This is the latest one. Boom. That's it. Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas, NFL Stadium proposal spreadsheet. Zennie Abraham. This is the latest date, latest update. So it includes project costs here, total project costs. I altered this from the previous version where I had just the guaranteed maximum price cost, which I call construction cost, which is at 1,620,091,530 dollars. And then I included change orders plus alterations, extra suites, which we discussed. That comes into approximately 298 million. That is a very, if you want to say, show the formula, there it is. That's 258 million in, that was reported by the mechanics lien, which includes change orders, and the 40 million that was reported to be the cost of adding the additional suites and the area. Okay, so, and I was generous. I didn't leave off any other change orders that were reported. So that's being generous. And I'm going to get an itemized list of those in later in the week. Then we have land, infrastructure, and offsite costs, which were at $179,908,470. Okay. There's the practice facility, which just topped out. It's $100 million. There's $100 million contingency. So the total stadium basic costs, as I call them, $2,298,000,000. So we're already north of $2 billion. Okay. We have offsite transportation infrastructure costs. I pegged that at 100 million because we haven't seen the final plan, and they've been very cagey about discussing it. But I also know that they had to purchase land, or at least strike lease deals, and that costs more money than they want to spend because the very existence of the Raiders Stadium under construction has driven up land values around the Strip considerably, to say the least. There's offsite non-transportation infrastructure costs. Now, what's the difference? Offsite transportation infrastructure costs consist of such things as parking, such things as not parking, but roads, widening the roads, everything that has to do with improving the roads to handle the expected level of traffic that goes with an NFL game or any other event they're going to have there. Offsite non-transportation infrastructure costs, that refers to parking per Clark County. So put that at $150 million. So, and I misspoke. I said that this was parking and I pegged it at 100 million because it was unknown. But actually, I had already calculated out parking earlier on, actually about a year and a half earlier from now. And it came in actually over 150 million. It was more like almost 200 million. But I am deliberately under budgeting this because I don't have an idea of what the final parking configuration is going to look like yet, and haven't been able to adjust my costs to fit what that is. Just the cost estimate, I should say. So total stadium development costs were at $2,548,000,000, and then of course there is the forgotten relocation fee, which even though it's spread out, is at 370 million, and so that gets us to cha-ching, $2,918,000,000. Okay. Now, the question is, where are we in terms of funding sources? We have the Raiders team investment, public investment. The Raiders team investment was at 500 million. That really includes the NFL loan and the PSL sales. Okay. Then there's the public investment, of course, 750 million. It's a little less than that technically, but we're just going to leave it there. There's the private investment, which is the B of A loan, which is really at 600 million. It's not at $850 million. There's no known additional private or public investment, so that's zero. So the total funding sources come to $1.8 billion, $1.85 billion. And so the total NFL stadium project net operating income is a negative $1,068 million. Okay. Now, we're not done because we have the operation of the stadium. That's the project cost, and there's the operation. And so we have the estimated event revenue, which is 934 million, non-event revenue at 309 million, and total stadium revenue 1,243 million, estimated over a 30-year period. Stadium operating expenses, according to SNTIC document, estimated to be 646 million over that 30-year period. The net operating income is positive $597 million over the 30-year period. All right. Now, what does that get us in terms of? We have debt service from the SNTIC model, which is coming up at 0. We have the Bank of America development loan, which is if you add in interest at LIBOR, which is London interbank rate, is $624,840,000. Then we have the Bank of America development. That's the Bank of America development loan. I apologize. And then we have a capital expenditure, which is 75 million, which has always been in the plans there. So total debt service and capital is $699,840,000. So the free stadium operating cash flow is negative $102 million over this 30-year period. And the total project operating cash flow here is negative $1,170 million. So the return on investment is a negative 40.1%. Now, what could change this? Very, very simply, I'll tell you what could change this. Non-event revenues were originally pegged in here. These are sponsorships at roughly $309 million, okay? They need what the Falcons had. If this were at $1 billion, that would help close that gap to about 170 million negative. But anyway, what you're seeing here is exactly what the Raiders need in terms of sponsorship monies. $1.17 billion in sponsorships. All right? That's what they need. They're not there yet. They're not anywhere close to that, okay? So this project is in the red. And even if you take away the relocation fee, the project is still in the red. And that gives you the real look at where this stadium project is. It's in the red. It does not have a naming rights agreement to speak of. There's no announcement of one. The Las Vegas Stadium Authority and the Raiders and Legends Hospitality have not announced any other NFL founding partners. They only have Cox, Pittsburgh Paint, Caesars, and that's it. Cox, Pittsburgh Paint, and Caesars. And why do I feel like I'm leaving someone out? I'm trying not to. So that's where we're at. Cox, Pittsburgh Paint, and Caesars. No one else. By contrast, and for a stadium that was slated to open the next year, the Atlanta Falcons had already lined up over $1 billion in founding partner sponsorships. Actually, they lined up over $800 million the fall of the year before the stadium opened. Okay? So compared to where, and I keep using the Atlanta Falcons Stadium as the model because it's the most recently finished stadium in the NFL system to be just that, but also to have hosted a Super Bowl. And it has the exact same design of funding assistance from Bank of America and the exact same founding partner model that is or has come to be born on Las Vegas Stadium. So the Raiders have an uphill climb. And when you take a look at the Inglewood facility fetching only a $400 million naming rights agreement, only $400 million, that shows you've got a problem, okay? Because you can't say, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, you can't say, well, Vegas is going to fetch a bigger naming rights agreement than the second largest media market in the country. That doesn't make any sense at all. Only a fool would buy into that. Now, someone could now, if I were that fool and I wanted to make an argument, you would say, okay, Zennie, do the impossible. Come up with a naming rights agreement that is better than $400 million for Las Vegas. And my approach would be to come up with a multi-building system. But the trouble is, to do that, we would have to have a partnership with a casino. Because a casino is the only other entity that owns multiple buildings, like Sands, for example, where you can spread out the name among different buildings. That's the only way you're going to justify something higher than $400 million in the area of, say, $600 million. It has to be a multiple building setup. Also, you have to do a really great presentation that shows how, not only how you're going to get the client's name on the roof of the building, because that building is sort of a glass fabric, right? EFT fabric, all right? How are you going to print that organization's name on it? Hasn't been done before. I haven't seen it done before. It's not done in Minnesota. And why do you say the roof? Because people, planes fly right over it, right? And even though that sounds novel, you still have to get down to the brass tacks of the number of planes that fly over each day, where they go, and is that a better, how great is that exposure versus someplace else? How much better, right? So, hey, John, how you doing? So I would argue that among all of the possible value vantage points from which to structure a winning stadium naming rights argument for Las Vegas Stadium, the roof and its proximity to the airport, as well as the rest of the strip, is number one, okay? I can make an argument that when Las Vegas Stadium is finished, it will be the most selfied structure of its kind in the world. I can make that argument. So then there comes the question, how many selfies a day? How many selfies a week, month, year? And what's the value of each one of those? And if a person selfies it, how are you going to design the stadium so that you make absolutely certain the client's name is on a ring around it so that it can be seen from whatever angle the building happens to be photographed, right? See, all that has to come into play. So it's possible, but you really have to start with first a multi-building perspective, even to the point, a multi-building perspective, and then you have to start with showing the client how their name is going to look, okay? That's the only way you can do it. But personally, even with that, you could show them all that and they still make the argument regarding Los Angeles, and they would say, oh, well, Chicago has a busier airport. Atlanta has a busier airport. Why is it? You see what I'm getting at? So you get into that. So at the end of the day, you could be looking at 350 or 400 million, maybe. But even then, that's still not enough. That's still not enough to fill that $1 billion gap. Okay? So it is a quandary. It is a cool problem. You would say, why would I say it as a person who's watched this like a hawk? Why would I say it's a cool problem? I'll tell you why. Because it is. I think it's the kind of problem in terms of selling that if you square that circle to the tune of bringing in 1 billion in sponsorships and then a naming rights agreement that's $500 million or more, if you can actually do that in this environment with recessionary fears on the way, with questions about hotel visitation rates in Las Vegas, with a media market that's 42nd largest in the country, if you can do that, you're a genius. If you can sell somebody and paying for that, you're a genius. But you can't do it with one building. You cannot do it with just Las Vegas Stadium. That means you have to partner with a casino. So who is that? The logical partner is Las Vegas Sands, because they have Sands Expo, okay? They have, and so if you partner with Las Vegas Sands, they put, Sands, what would it be if they put their name on Las Vegas Stadium? Well, obviously it would be Sands Stadium. So you have Sands Stadium, Sands Expo. They would be willing to do what they originally were going to do, which is cough up about $500 million, $650 million. Except here's the proviso where I will correct myself, and that's this. I think Adelson wanted part of his money back, as I understood it. Not in the way the Bank of America did. Bank of B of A is not flexible, but Adelson was, I understood, flexible. But when you invest in the way of a naming rights agreement, you don't get that money back. You're doing that for marketing. So if the Raiders were able to attract, I was starting to use the word sucker in, because there is a bit of that. Okay. If the Raiders were able to attract Sands and say, hey, look, put in $600 million, but you're not going to get anything back, but you have your name all over the place, even over Caesars Entertainment, okay, that would be the Raiders getting over on Sands in a way they didn't before. I'm being really transparently honest about this. I'm just analyzing this deal from all possible angles, okay? Because it's a fun problem to figure out. It's a fun problem to figure out. But also, if they don't figure out the problem, the way the law is written, Senate Bill 1, they can't go back to the legislature and say, we need more money. Well, you can do that. But the way the legislature has written the law right now, it's not likely they're going to get that money. And they need it. The original version of Senate Bill 1 had it that there would be a tax increment financing zone of, get this, 25 miles in diameter. It would have made Las Vegas Stadium Authority the most powerful organization of its kind ever, okay? So the Las Vegas Stadium Authority would have been able, you're saying, what is that and how does that work? And this is something you should be focused on right now. You say, what is that and how does that work? And the way it works basically is, with tax increment financing, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority will be the redevelopment agency. It would collect property tax and use that property tax in the form of the ability to let additional bonds to pay for whatever it needed to be paid for. You should have seen the original piece of legislation. From the perspective of pure political power for a developer, it was a thing of beauty. I'll repeat what I just said to you. From a perspective of pure political power for a developer, the original Senate Bill 1 was a thing of beauty. It allowed developers to sit on the Stadium Authority board. It gave them considerable control, and then it added in the extra controls, as I call them, around a tax increment financing zone of not, a mile around the stadium or something like that, but 25 miles. Okay? 25 miles. But what happened was that Rob Goldstein, the chief operating officer, then maybe still now, of Las Vegas Sands, stepped in on behalf of Mr. Adelson and said, you know what, we can pay for any cost overruns in offsite infrastructure or any infrastructure improvements. He said that, which means if you take his word at face value, had Adelson been involved, all of these issues with parking, with street and road improvement, with mechanics, liens, and all this, they would have just written a check, because for them, it's a rounding order. All right? So to me, that's still possible, because if Adelson didn't want the project to exist, he'd have killed it a long time ago. He'd have killed the project he ignited. He didn't do that. So as far as I'm concerned, with him not doing that and his publication writing favorably about it, that means that they're still involved. Because everything else, given the way Senate bill is, given the way the Senate bill is written, all right, everything else is comes from there. John Acala mentions that public, that's Planet News, and the reason why I say that is this: dig in and go to Oakland News Now and read everything that's there. Watch those videos, and the reason why I say that is because the people that you're quoting from don't take any time at all to research Jack. I mean, Jack. It doesn't mention that dispute is one contractor that is looking for its money from Merrill Steel. And here's how, and maybe I should write about this just to clean it up. Here's why that's incomplete. Merrill Steel filed the $258 million mechanics lien. All right? They were concerned about not getting paid. So here is another organization suing Merrill Steel. This is a big deal. That's a big deal right in and of itself. But see, why is it a big deal? And you would say, Zennie, why do you say it's a big deal now, but then you say it's not the most important one? I'm confused. Here's why I say that. Because the real story behind that is this. The question whether or not Merrill Steel, in some kind of way, was told to shut up and that they would get their money, and then they didn't get their money and weren't able to pay these other folks. If that's the real story and it's not getting out, there's going to be hell to pay, because what's happening is that Merrill Steel has an active mechanics lien. That lien didn't go away. All right? They made it sound like it was resolved, but no one ever explained what the resolution was. And then in the first report on this, they said it was going to be actively monitored. Well, where's the latest report on that? You see, the Stadium Authority Board should be asking these questions publicly, but they're doing this like see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil jazz. And it doesn't help anybody. Remember the last stadium report, which finally acknowledged what was the scuttlebutt all over, that, hey, a number of the truss segments were not installed correctly? That's another cost on top of everything else. So this facility has a boatload of problems. I mean, a boatload of problems financially. And then there's this lawsuit, okay? So now I'll get to your comments here. And Sean Watson says you met Marshawn Lynch. Good for you. Awesome. Have him come on Zennie62, man. And so I don't see any other comments there. All right. So there. If no one else has anything, it is 1:37, but I wanted to present that to you. The Mueller report comes on at 8 o'clock. I'm going to get up and do a live stream talk about that. And Later in the week, I'm going to talk more about and try to get some guests on about last week and Comic-Con. I had a blast. Ooh, I had a blast. Lots to share with you. Lots to talk about. Lots of contacts. Lots of following up to do. I'm going to be a judge on the iPhone and smartphone movie festival. So can't wait to get involved with that as well. Lots of stuff going on, folks. Lots of stuff. But right now, I wanted to share with you the real story in that this project cost is $3 billion, arguably over it. $3 billion. So take that, and I explained it in detail. I went through the spreadsheet there. And I'm going to do the write-up, which will be on Oakland News Now. Actually, this will automatically be on Oakland News Now within minutes after this live stream is done. And then tomorrow I'll put in more the details, okay? All right. All right. All right, everybody. Or excuse me, live long and prosper in your world. At least until tomorrow. Okay, see y'all later. All right, take care.